What's going on, everybody? It's Citizen Man here, and I have hijacked B Miles' channel. That's right, I did. We're doing the collab tonight, but I guess he's running a few minutes late. So once he gets here, there we go. Well, we're gonna kick off the conversation. But in the meantime, I just wanted to. I just touched base with him. He said he just needed a few more minutes, so I just wanted to just go live, not to keep you guys waiting. I see my man David in the chat talking about I'm always late. I'm not always late, David. I'm only late some of the time, most of the time, and it's usually because I get jumped by the kids. The teenagers hold me down, and the baby kicks me in the head. Okay, just lump my whole shit up. All right, so take it easy. All right, but nevertheless, let's get this thing going, man. Let's get this thing going. I'm about to just give y'all a Citizen Man intro for those of you who might not be familiar with my content. Welcome to the show. So let's do it. Let's do it. Oh, sorry about that. Forgot about the music. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed the music. If you want to know what that song is, it's an actual song by a French. He's a French-Canadian artist by the name of Yame, Y-A-M-E, and that song is called Bawe, which is B-A-H-W. Matter of fact, let me look it up. Let me go look at it before I misinform y'all. Yeah, B-A-H-W-A-I, and it's actually French for oh yeah. So the song is actually called Oh Yeah, but in French. But anyway, let me see if B Miles has joined us yet. Oh, he's here. Awesome. Just perfect timing, bro. Perfect timing. So let's get into this, man. Let's get into this. My brother. What's happening, man? What's happening?
Oh man, I'm wonderful, man. I can't complain. What's going on, brother?
Hey, nothing, bro. We finally did it.
Yep. Finally.
Man. Yeah, you know what? I've been dragging my feet. You've been asking me to do the collabs for a long time, and you know, I guess some things had to happen, and for me to really say, you know what, let me show this brother some love because he been showing me mad love. When that whole thing happened, I took the streams down because it's not conducive with my brand, but at least I was able to get it off my chest. But you were the only person that called me, and I was like, I'm gonna make the time, and we gonna make this shit happen, and we gonna do it right. You know what I'm saying? And for those of you who might be wondering, we were actually discussing doing a weekly show together. So this is kind of like episode 1, the test run. And once we see how things go with the test run, if you guys like the show and you want more, we're gonna give you more. So B Miles, you got the floor, brother. Tell them what's on your mind, man. It's your
Oh
show.
man, oh man, definitely want to say good evening to everybody. You know what I'm saying? Welcome to the chat. You know what I'm saying? This is one of my good fellow brothers that's been up on the YouTube that's been doing this thing for quite some time. You know what I mean? Citizen Man right here. And I definitely recommend that y'all go ahead, you know what I'm saying, and subscribe to the brother channel because this brother is definitely going to bring some information. You feel what I'm saying? Like I said, I'm going to bring some information, but ever since this brother right here is the guest tonight, so I'm definitely going to allow him to share his information and stuff like that. And like I said, we don't argue, we don't debate. And like I said, eat the fish, spit out the bones. It's like whatever information apply, let it apply. If it doesn't, like I said, eat the fish, spit out the bones. And like I said, Citizen Man, yeah, man. Like I said, welcome to the chat. And like I said, you got the floor, my brother.
Yeah, man. I like that. I like how you move where you say like you guys don't argue and debate because I'm with the bullshit. I'm with the smoke. we be going in on my channel, but it's nice to have a different outlook on those kinds of things and a different flavor because some of the subjects that I discuss, people do debate me and they do want to debate me about it, but I just
Yeah,
can't. You know what I'm saying? It's just hard for me to debate them because I know that what I'm saying is true. They don't know that
right.
what I'm saying is true. So it ends up being like, they're wrong, I'm right, but they think they're right and think that I'm wrong, and vice versa. So it just ends up with the head bump. And so understanding each other's perspectives, I think, is very important. And funny enough, me and you happen to agree on just about everything else. I like what you talk about. I listen to your streams all the time. Your audience sees me in the chat. Um, and I shout you out on my show a lot. So my audience is familiar with you. So I think it was only right that we did this, man. But
Yes, sir.
but the no arguing, no debate. I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna try that because I've been entertaining too much nonsense on my channel.
How many in the test so far? How many in the test so far?
Say what? How many?
How many in the chat so far?
Oh, I only got 24 right now.
Okay,
Excuse me. 24 on YouTube, and I got 9 over on Rumble. My numbers are
okay,
usually go live later than this, so the majority of my people ain't really seeing me right now.
got you.
They probably not gonna come checking for me for like another hour or so.
Got you.
But shout out. I just want to take a quick second, give a big shout out to my brother, the one dude. He dropped me a super chat and he said, make sure to donate, sub, and like, y'all. And that goes for both channels. And for you guys who aren't aware, the B Miles channel, I'm actually live on B Miles channel right now. And on my channel, to my audience, you guys, we're live on my channel, as you can see. So what you guys are seeing what you guys are seeing right now is live on both of our channels. So you guys can bounce back and forth. If you want to come over to my channel, give me a sub so you can, come back later and check out some of my other content. You're more than welcome to. And for my people, vice versa. Y'all want to jump over to B Miles channel, go show that brother some love. You know what I'm saying? Now, we're going to get into some things. We got a lot of things to talk about, but before we do, B Miles, let me just do the quick promotional segment before we jump
Okay.
into it. It only takes a few minutes. I'm a businessman, man. I got to promote. Going too far, going too far, going too far. All right. So, for those of you who aren't familiar with my content, I do have my main channel, which is Citizen Man TV, that I'm live on right now. I also have the backup channel called Citizen Man. I don't have much content on there, but I do encourage people to subscribe to that channel because if they zap me over on Citizen Man TV, I can still go live on Citizen Man. So, oh, shout out to Deborah Ticey for the Cash App. And shout out to B Miles, man. He hit me with some, man, you ain't have to do that, B. I'm gonna hit you back, bro. But yeah, so if they zap me on Citizen Man TV, I'll be live on the Citizen Man channel. So stay connected. That's how you stay connected. Now, a lot of my content that you'll find on Citizen Man TV on YouTube, it had to be set to private because it's too real for TV, essentially, and it will get my channel taken down, as this is my 16th YouTube channel. So in case you're wondering, how's this brother so articulate? It's got such great content, but his numbers are so low. Well, that's because I'm, in the wise words of Minister Jap, I am shadow banned shouty out here. This is my channel number 16 in the last 5 years. So that's what we're fighting uphill. But I do have a Rumble page. If you guys aren't familiar with the platform Rumble, get on over to Rumble, give me a follow on Rumble, and that's where you'll find over 500 videos of all my content that's not available on YouTube. I guess I would call it my best content. And of course, last but not least, to both audiences, if you guys feel so inclined to support the show, I'm sure B Miles has got his support links that his mods are going to drop in the chat. Mine are pinned to the top of my chat over on my channel. So if you guys would like to support the show, please feel free to do so. I have Cash App, PayPal, and Venmo available. I'm not sure what B Miles got available, but I always hit him on the Cash App. And the red X that I put through the PayPal is just to inform people that PayPal actually censors comments and they'll try to steal your money if you say something they don't like. So I urge people to, and when you're sending donations on PayPal, and this applies to anybody, keep the comments surface level, because it can cause you and the person you're sending that donation to some huge problems with your account. It happened to me, and I wish for it to never happen again. All right, so that'll do it. That's it for the promotions. Let me get back to the split screen. Sorry, y'all. Just give me a second here. There we go. So there you have it. So B Miles, you still there, brother?
Yes, sir.
All right. So the topic that I put on my channel is B Miles and Citizen Man TV discuss the world as we know it. NESARA, flat earth, and more. So we get into everything. Of course, I got some slides pertaining to what's mentioned in the title. But where you want to start off, bro? Where you want to start?
Matter of fact, remember that planes you was up there showing? I want you to show them.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you said that. I'm so glad you said that, because I was like, I want to get into this. So the war that's happening with Venezuela right now, I'm sure you guys know Trump's bombing all the boats, and in the media you're hearing people make a big stink about it. But what the public doesn't understand, and it takes a really deep understanding of the American political system and how the federal judicial system works in conjunction with military law, with the law of armed conflict, to really get a grasp on what's really taking place when it comes to Venezuela. Yes, we are in open warfare with Venezuela right now. And that's why Venezuela is being targeted. Now, what you're being told in the media is it's about the drug trafficking, but it's more than that. That's just what they're telling us, because that's just what they're allowed to tell us. But what they're not telling us is, along with the drug trafficking, of course, there's human smuggling. And Venezuela was involved back in 2020, when Hugo Chavez was the president. Venezuela was actually involved in the massive election fraud that took place in 2020. And based on the law of armed conflict, when you have any foreign nation that's directly involved with the usurpation of the electoral process in a sovereign nation, that is considered an act of war. So once it was discovered and brought to light that Venezuela was involved with the Smartmatic and the Dominion voting systems, the electronic voting machines that were flipping the votes, Venezuela now became a literal enemy of the United States. So Trump went light on them and said, we're going to stop the drug trafficking, and started stopping the boats. Now, the boats that are getting bombed are just a few of hundreds, because what's happening is the U.S. Navy, in conjunction with the Coast Guard, if they get far enough north, they're stopping the boats, like how the cops will pull you over on the street. they're stopping the boats, and the majority of the boats are stopping, and the ones that aren't stopping are the ones that are getting bombed. Now, what's happening to the people that are being apprehended on those boats that are actually stopping is a more interesting question, because we have the prison in El Salvador, where the illegals that are being, a lot of the criminal aliens that are being deported are being sent to. We have a couple other facilities around the world, all the way over in Africa, and I think it's in Sudan, I believe. And of course, there's Guantanamo Bay, which had been massively expanded back in 2018 and 2019 under Trump's first term, and that was for a whole different purpose. That you got to come to my channel to get all that, because it goes real deep. Now, those guys, at the same time, they're being interrogated, and they're telling on their buyers here in the United States. I don't know if you guys have put the pieces of the puzzle together, but if you go and look through the news headlines, what you'll start seeing is there's all these major drug busts that are happening all across the country involving people of foreign nationalities, right? They're finding, 1,000 bricks of cocaine here, 100,000 kilos. Like 100 kilos of fentanyl over there, and it's all over the country, from Boston all the way down to Texas, all the way out to California, Washington State, New York. They're everywhere. And this is all linked to the mass deportations. Now, if you go look at the footage of the mass deportations and the ICE raids, you'll see guys with vests on that say HSI. And of course, the FBI is with them too. The HSI stands for Homeland Security Investigations. And Homeland Security Investigations are basically the ones that, as ICE takes the illegal aliens into custody, Homeland Security Investigations, along with the FBI, are arresting their American counterparts who are aiding and abetting them in being in the country, in residing in the country illegally, and also helping to facilitate their criminal investigations. Their criminal operations. So these people now are being referred to the Department of Justice, and they're being federally indicted. And some of the worst, like the killers and the hit teams, they're going into military custody and getting immediately shipped out of the country. Even the Americans who are naturalized citizens or have green cards, but are of foreign nationalities that are working with these foreign criminal organizations, they're getting deported and shipped out of the country too. This is what Trump was talking about when he mentioned the denaturalization process. And the denaturalization is basically, for a naturalized citizen, somebody from a foreign country that came here legally and became a citizen, if they get caught up in massive criminal operations that involve foreign countries, they will be stripped of their citizenship and immediately deported or sent to one of these holding facilities. So that's how that's working. So it's starting with the guys on the water on the boats. They're snitching on the guys on the ground here in the U.S. that are waiting to receive those shipments. And as a result, the guys here in the U.S. are getting busted. That's hence you have all the news headlines of the major drug busts, along with the military operations down in the Caribbean Sea. Now, when it comes to Maduro and Venezuela and Trump's threats to invade Venezuela, I believe that his threats are credible. And the reason why I believe his threats are credible is because that massive buildup costs a lot of money. It costs a whole lot of money. Oh, and for you guys on my channel, this is B Miles' channel, in case you guys want to go check him out. That's his channel. We'll do it again at the end. But now the Doomsday plane, which is a naval intelligence plane, is also involved. And if you guys aren't familiar with the Doomsday plane and what they do, that plane handles all communications from all military units operating on the ground and at sea and in the air during major operations. 9/11 was a major operation by the deep state. Did you know on 9/11, the Doomsday plane, and I think it was a few days after 9/11, the Doomsday plane was seen circling over Washington, D.C. That's the last time I ever heard of the Doomsday plane. Now, Trump is posturing for war against Venezuela, and the U.S. Navy Doomsday plane vanishes over the Atlantic Ocean during mysterious secret mission. Hold on. It's not sharing. Why is it not sharing? Oh, I'm tripping. I do that all the time. Hold on. There we go. Now we're sharing. You guys should be able to see it now.
Yep, there you go.
All right. All right. So this plane right here, this is what they call the Doomsday plane. And it's a naval intelligence plane. And if you guys have been really following Trump's war against the deep state since his first term, naval intelligence has been at the core of all the operations, military and civilian. Excuse me. I'm so sorry, guys. So now that the Doomsday plane is involved, that means something is more than likely going to get bombed in Venezuela unless Maduro actually steps down. And the latest report that I heard was that Maduro was going to step down. I don't know if it's true because I'm also seeing conflicting reports that he's still around. And B Miles, your reference to NESARA and the mass deportations, right?
Yes, sir.
All this ties into that.
Mm-hmm.
Because the mass deportations is to get rid of the potential armed combatants, which I call foreign sleeper cells, that were let in when Biden opened up the border. And that's why those were the first. Huh?
I said, thank you, citizen man. Confirmation.
Yep. Yep. And Trump was targeting those people first. Because if he started going after the everyday average illegal alien that isn't part of any major criminal networks, those sleeper cells would have been activated to start committing mass shootings, mass bombings, and terror attacks. So essentially, they were holding the country hostage. And the only way to free up Trump to start moving against the deep state and their foreign assets was to get rid of the threat first, reduce the threat level, because in getting rid of the deep state, he also has to protect the American people, because we all know whenever there's a major move being made against the deep state, if they can't hit the president himself, they'll hit the people. Because if you have a president sitting in office and there's all these mass terror attacks and people dying all over the country, that reflects very poorly on the sitting president. It makes him look bad because the rest of the world is going to be looking and saying you're incompetent because your people are dying and you can't stop it. Kind of like what they're saying about the president of Nigeria, where the Muslim people are running, the Muslim terrorists are running around killing the Christians and the peaceful Muslims. Everybody is saying the president needs to do something about it, but he's not. And our military is over there assisting them now. But back to the Venezuela thing. Now, Venezuela was involved with the theft of the 2020 election. And since 2020, since under the Biden administration, and the whole Biden presidency was completely fake. And I got plenty of streams proving that with all kinds of visuals over on my Rumble page. But this is why Trump keeps mentioning that auto pen. And there was actually a video from the mainstream media where Trump had Prince bin Salman, the Saudi prince, at the White House, and he was showing the Saudi prince what they call the colonnade, which is actually a wall with pictures of all the presidents, leading up to the current president. And when you get to Obama, the next picture is Trump, but it's his mugshot from Atlanta. And then the next picture where it's supposed to be Biden, it's a picture of the auto pen. Then the next picture is Trump's mugshot again, which is Trump's current presidency. But this was a post put out by Donald Trump on Truth Social. And it was actually posted on Twitter by Johnny St. Pete or John McCloy. And Trump reposted it. So that means there's some validity to this here. It says bombshell video. Elon Musk might have saved the 2024 election from being stolen. Benny Johnson, he's another conservative reporter, tells the story of how Musk knew that they would win the election, and it appears is because they identified the overseas systems and machines that were going to perpetrate what we saw in 2020. Right? Follow me now. Now we know why Trump is raging at Venezuela. Apparently, we weren't crazy. Musk tracked down the IP addresses of the Dominion office in Serbia in and rendered their computers, that's a typo, we're supposed to say and rendered their computers useless days before the election. That would be the 2024 election. Years prior, in 2020, the chairman of Smartmatics Holdings, that's holdings company, SGO, that's the company that owns Dominion Voting Systems, by the way, or owned it at the time. Mark Malik Brown, he resigned in 2020. Guess where his next job was? January 2021. The president of the Open Society Foundation. Yes, Soros's foundation. George Soros being the #1 donor to the Democrats and the DNC, his right-hand man was the head of an electronic voting company called Smartmatic, and those Dominion machines may have been running Smartmatic software. According to Emerald Robinson, General Flynn flew out to meet with the Venezuela whistleblowers. Anyone else thinks it's odd that the Democrats are worried so relentlessly about Venezuela? Were they and the globalists running operations out of there? So there you have it, folks. There is your confirmation by Trump himself. If it wasn't true, Trump wouldn't post it. It would discredit him. But there's your confirmation that Venezuela was involved with the theft of the 2020 election, which constitutes a direct act of war and an act of aggression against the United States of America. And the reason why it's considered an act of war is because just like back in the days of the barbarians, when a foreign enemy would come into the land, what would they do? They would kill all the resistors, enslave the people, and make themselves the rulers of that land. So if you have a foreign country in the modern era rigging elections in America to put their puppets in charge of America, essentially making their allies in their foreign infiltration the rulers of this land, that is an open act of warfare, no different than when the barbarian hordes would conquer a city and make themselves kings and princes. And this is why Trump is threatening war. This is why he's blowing up the boats that ain't stopping. And this is why he's shipping those guys to military prisons when they get picked up from the boats that do stop. And this is why the mainstream media and the Democratic Party is so outraged, and they're trying to make it seem like there's like Trump is breaking the law or there's something illegal about what he's doing, because they know that the public is ignorant to the fact that stealing an election from a foreign country is an open act of war. And everybody that's making a big stink about the legality of Trump doing what he's doing to Venezuela, they never once mentioned that Venezuela was involved with the theft of the 2020 election. They always conveniently leave that part of the story out, because that's the part of the story they don't want you to know. Because if you don't know that Venezuela committed a direct act of war against the United States, then of course, naturally, you'll question the legality of Trump's direct acts of war against Venezuela. But with the understanding that Venezuela started it, well, I say kick their ass. But that's just me. Now, Emerald Robinson is this person here, and it says breaking, and this was posted on December 2nd. That would be yesterday. The communist dictator of Venezuela, Hugo Chavez, rigged the 2008 Iowa Democratic Presidential Caucus on January 3rd, 2008, for Barack Obama. I think the caucus actually happened 2007, so this might actually be a typo. The caucus is 2007. According to whistleblower testimony from ex-Smartmatic employees, and look at this, now in federal custody. So all throughout the Joe Biden presidency, if you get a chance to go back and watch my Joe Biden fake presidency streams, I was talking about how the Biden show was being put on to pacify the American people, because the American people could not fathom the idea of a total military takeover of the country. Yes, during those 4 years, we were under martial law. But it was a soft version of martial law that only applied to Congress. Now, if you go back in the congressional record in those 4 years, and you compare it to every other presidential term prior, you will see that Congress actually passed federal legislation that was legislation directly against the American people, laws that we, the people, had to follow. But when you go back to the Joe Biden presidency, or what I call the Biden show, there are no federal laws passed against the American people. Every federal bill that came through Congress had something to do with the internal workings of the federal government itself. It had nothing to do with the people. And this was also confirmed alongside my observation of this. I actually had the privilege of asking a very high-ranking Marine Corps officer, if Congress is under what they call COG, continuity of government. And he confirmed, and he said, yes, but it's a soft form of COG where where the states are allowed to operate however they want, so they can pass all the laws they want against their people. But the federal Congress is restricted from voting on any federal legislation that directly affects the American people. Those were his exact words. Now, as far as the Biden presidency being fake, I asked him about that, and his answer was he couldn't tell me. And that told me all I needed to know. That was essentially him telling me without telling me.
That's deep.
And during those 4 years, I was informing people that the Biden show is COG, it's martial law, and the reason for this is because the people involved with the theft of the 2020 election are being arrested, but they're not being arrested by the civilian forces. They're being arrested by the military. And some of those people have been turned over to the into federal custody now, hence ex-Smartmatic employees now in federal custody, because before they were in federal custody, they were in military custody. If you don't believe me, there's a woman by the name of Ruby Freeman, and shortly after the 2020 election, her daughter mysteriously disappeared, but there was no missing persons report filed. Law enforcement did not get involved or attempt to look for her because she was picked up by the military. And the reason for that was because she was in charge of a polling station where they were actively throwing Trump votes into the garbage and bringing in boxes and boxes of fake mail-in Biden votes. And she was the one in charge of running that operation. Hence, she was the one that got picked up and taken into custody. The story of Ruby Freeman's daughter going missing like that, was her name? Yeah, it was Ruby Freeman. The story of her daughter going missing like that was basically our indicator to let us know that this is happening on multiple levels across the country. And people are still being arrested to this day for being involved with the theft of the 2020 election. So make no mistake about it. Trump has been busy. And this second term is actually his third term. It's just his second term, he ran it as the commander-in-chief. And as the commander-in-chief, the military put on the Biden show for us. And if you guys aren't aware of our military's capability to get involved in film production, the U.S. Department of Defense has had a contract with Warner Brothers Studios and has worked with Hollywood since like the 1920s. So also, in Trump's first term, a lot of those celebrities that went missing and came back looking different, that's what happened to them. They got picked up by the military because of the pedophilia and the human trafficking that they were involved in. And this is why when you see them now, they look so weird, because it ain't them. And a part of, if you go look up Trump's executive order that was signed, I believe it's September of 2018, it's executive order 13848 is the executive order. And it's the executive order blocking the property of persons involved in human rights violations. And that executive order, as these Hollywood celebrities and these film studios were being shut down, that allowed the federal government, by way of the military, to confiscate their studios and confiscate their equipment. And if you go back and you look at Joe Biden's presidency, every shot of him in the Oval Office, that was not the real White House. The White House in DC was actually closed down. And for a short while in 2021, Google Maps was showing the White House and all the Washington, D.C. government buildings as permanently closed.
Yep.
The FBI building closed down in 2021 as well. They said they moved, but who knows, right? So it was a big sweep that happened, but it all had to be done covertly and quietly, because they were still bigger players to go after, like the actual sitting Congress members who are now on the chopping block. This is why Trump is now talking about the seditious six who were telling the military not to follow Trump's orders. That also is an act of war. That is now siding with a foreign enemy, and they more than likely are going to hang. And what's interesting about that is when Trump had that ballroom construction started on the east wing of the White House, if you look through history, ballrooms have also been used to double as courtrooms. And it's very interesting that these same criminal scumbags in our government that are making a big stink about Trump going after Venezuela somehow seem to have a problem with the ballroom being built. And I believe that's because they know that that's where they're going to hang. But, you know, that's just my theory. And, you know, 90% of my theories have proven to be correct. You know, but sometimes I miss though. So don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that. So that's the Venezuela situation. And that all is in part, that all ties into what Brother B. Miles himself had actually made me aware of so many years ago, NESARA. And for you guys on B. Miles' channel, he showed you guys in the book where part of NESARA was removing these illegal aliens and making way for the American people. Yo, B, you got some feedback, bro. I'm gonna mute your mic, all right?
Okay, man. Okay, my fault.
Yeah, unless you want to chime in and say something, you know what I'm saying? I'll give you the floor.
Oh no, you good. That was my fault. Go ahead, brother. You good.
All right, cool. All right, so NESARA, and I've been teaching on my channel over on Citizen Man TV about NESARA, and I've been correlating each tenet of NESARA that's supposed to be enacted with certain things that Trump has done, right? Because some of it has been done already, and some of it has yet to be done. I'll give you an example. The abolishment of income taxes. That's one of the things that has yet to be done. And if you look here, I hate that I have to keep doing this. Ryan Fournier, who is a conservative reporter, President Trump just announced he expects the income tax to be abolished soon. This would be the single greatest economic move in American history. Imagine taking home 100% of your paycheck. The economy would explode overnight. Now, another tenet of NESARA that has already been enacted would be this one. Where is it? With the Federal Reserve. Initiates new U.S. Treasury. No, that's not it. Where's the one with the Federal Reserve? Where they said the Federal Reserve is going to operate under the U.S. Treasury. Initiates U.S. Treasury bank system in alignment with constitutional law. So it has to be up here. Oh, creates new U.S. Treasury currency, rainbow currency, monitors elections and prevents illegal election activity or special interest groups. This is what's happening right now with the Venezuela thing since 2020. This is this part here, the monitors elections and prevents illegal election activities. That's all been going on since the 2020 election. This is why Trump allowed the 2020 election to be stolen so they can catch the criminals. I mean, when the DEA or the narcotic cops are, hunting down a major drug organization, they don't just walk up into their clubhouse or into their bar and say, "Hey, I'm the police and I know y'all selling dope." No, they sit outside in their cars and they wait and they let them deal their dope and they watch them and they gather evidence and then they bust them. That's exactly what the Trump administration did with the election thieves. Where is it? Eliminates the Federal Reserve System. That elimination of the Federal Reserve System was carried out by the absorption of the Federal Reserve into the U.S. Treasury, which actually took place back in I believe it was December of 2020. You can actually go back and Google in the Wayback Machine and Google that, and you'll see all the news articles, because I remember watching the news when Trump made that announcement, and he said it was going to be temporary. But guess what? The Federal Reserve is still under the Treasury. Now, this one here, Forgives credit card, mortgage, and other bank debt due to illegal banking and government activities. Abolishes the IRS, creates flat rate, non-essential, new items only sales tax revenue for government. Now, guess what? The new items only sales tax revenue, you know what that is, guys? That's the tariffs. That is the tariffs. Because if you're not aware of how tariffs work, a tariff is a tax on an imported good. Now, most people are given the impression that that tax is based on the retail value of that good. So let's say the United States imports, for every ton of beef we import from, I don't know, South America, right? That beef is produced at a cost of maybe $1 a pound. When it gets here to the United States, it's on the market at $10 a pound. People think that the tariff will apply to that $10 per pound. But in fact, the tariff actually applies to the manufacturing cost, which would be that $1 a pound. And this is why the tariffs have not driven prices up so high, because the tariff is based on a much lower value than the retail value of those imports. And guess what? The new items only sales tax is the tariff, because if the tariff is based on the manufacturer's cost, when something is first manufactured, guess what it is? It's a new item. So the new items only tax is actually being implemented right now, which is the tariffs. Now, this one here forgives the debt due to illegal banking. That ties into let me see. That ties into. Oh, here we go. Creates new U.S. Treasury currency, rainbow currency backed by gold, silver, and platinum precious metals. Now, this transition from the fiat dollar and swapping to a gold-backed currency is what is going to cause the wiping away of all the debts. Now, the question is, how is that possible? Well, if you study international trade, where countries that use different currencies with different values, how they formulate their trade agreements, their contracts, in every contract, like let's say I make an agreement with China to buy, I don't know, 10,000 lithium batteries every month from China, right? China will agree in that contract to sell those batteries to me for $500, $100 a battery, right? So I agree to paying $1 million to China for 10,000 of those $100 batteries. But in that, along with that contract, there's another contract, like an addendum, called a forward contract, which is essentially a contingency plan to account for any price changes that may occur with either trading nation's currency value. Okay? And that forward contract basically says if your currency value drops from the current state, from the current rate that it's at now, as we sign this initial contract, the forward contract says how many ever percentage points your currency value drops is how many percentage points my price of my goods is going to go up, because I need to make the equivalent value of what you agreed to in the first contract, in the original contract. That's called a forward contract. Now, the beautiful part about it is every credit card, mortgage, and loan, car payment, any bank debt, any debt to any lender in the United States that you have taken out and signed a contract to that you now owe money on, it's a domestic transaction. It's not an international transaction. So at the time the contract was written by the lender, it was written with the assumption that there will be no change in the value of the currency, because our transaction is denoted in that same Federal Reserve note fiat currency. So there's no need for a forward contract, which sets a contingency plan for a swap of currency. Now, a change of currency and a swap of currency are two different things. A change of currency is if I have a $100 bill and I break it into 20s. It's still US dollars. A swap of currency is if I have $100 bill and I go to Canada and I trade that $100 bill for the equivalent in Canadian dollars based on the exchange rate. So if the Canadian exchange rate is 2 to 1, $1 is worth 2 Canadian dollars. A swap would be me trading my $100 for 200 Canadian dollars. Totally different currency. Now, because these domestic loan contracts do not have forward contracts, once that swap to a gold-backed currency happens and there's no fiat currency being used in the economy anymore, that will essentially, by all legal standards, constitute a currency swap. So the fiat currency now becomes null and void, and the new currency that's accepted in domestic commerce will be the rainbow currency. When that occurs, because none of these lenders have forward contracts, all their debts now become null and void. Let me put it in simpler terms for you, because I know the economic talk, it confuses the best of us, and it took me years of study to understand it. So now with my understanding, I can give it to you in simpler terms. So if you have to explain it, you don't have to play back this video. You can just explain it. If I make a deal with B Miles and we shake on it and I say, next week, B Miles, if you give me 10 oranges today, I will return you 11 oranges next week. That's our contract. No forward contract, nothing, because the oranges are forever going to be oranges. They'll never change, right? But let's say during that week, all the oranges get sold out and there's no oranges left. I can't come to him with 8 apples and say, hey, B Miles, I don't have your 11 oranges that I owe you in my contract, but I do have 8 apples. Guess what happens? There's nothing in our contract that says anything about trading for apples. So once the oranges disappeared from the market and the new currency is now apples, that contract based on oranges is null and void, which means B Miles can either accept my payment of apples and call it square, or I can be a dick and say, hey, we're not paying in oranges no more, so I don't owe you shit. You see what I'm saying? But he's my brother, so I'll give him the apples. But these lenders, they are not your friend. So you have to take the latter approach with these lenders. Now, here's where it gets tricky. Once that currency swap happens, those lenders are not going to call you or send you a letter and say, hey, you don't owe us anymore because we swap currencies and our contract is null and void. They won't tell you that. There's a lot of legal shit that happens behind the scenes with these banks that they don't tell you. Of course, we all know that. Well, here's one of those secrets. They're not going to tell you that. But what you can do is stop paying that debt once the currency swap happens. But it has to be officially announced by the U.S. Treasury and by the president himself. And the legislation would have to be signed into law before you can make this move, because the laws protect you. You can then stop paying that debt. Your debt collectors are going to put you into default. Then they're going to initiate legal action against you. If it's a car loan, they're going to initiate legal action to repossess. If it's a mortgage, they're going to initiate legal action to foreclose. Once you get that notice of initiation of legal action, you then respond to them with the international trade laws pertaining to forward contracts that account for currency swaps. Then you attach with that the announcement of the currency swap from the fiat US dollar to the gold-backed rainbow currency and declare that contract with them null and void. And you know what's going to happen? They're going to cancel the contract, free you from that debt, and they'll leave you alone. And here's why. Because once they decide to fight you and take it to court, they will lose. As long as you bring up the forward contract and the lack thereof, the existence of forward contracts in these situations and the lack thereof from your lender, they will lose in court. And not only will they lose in court and have to cut you loose anyway, but now it becomes public record. And you can then use those court documents to share with other people that, hey, this is an effective strategy to get out of your debt once that currency swap happens. That's how the forgiveness and the cancellation of all debts is going to occur. But it's we, the people, that are going to have to initiate that cancellation. But for most people, they don't have a clue of any of this. So once we switch to a gold-backed currency, they'll just think, hey, I owe $15,000 on my car. I'll pay $15,000 on my car, completely disregarding the fact that the $15,000 that they owe is a totally different currency from the $15,000 that they're now about to go pay, which they legally aren't obligated to. And I'll tell you right now, people might think it sounds crazy, but if you go look up international trade laws and forward contracts and you go look at all your loan contracts, that's the element that's missing. That's the element that would validate that debt once the currency swap happens. But if that element is missing and the currency swap happens, all debts and contracts in the abandoned currency are also abandoned, null and void. That's how that works. So NESARA is underway. Certain tenets of NESARA have been taking place, and more are yet to come. Now, the one that's of the most interest to me, because, I'm a businessman. I kind of like money a little bit, not too much, because I'm not covetous. I'm not covetous or greedy. I'm very altruistic. I give a lot. That's why I like money, because I like to help other people. But you can't help other people if you can't help yourself, right? Where is it? Okay. Initiates first phase of worldwide prosperity distribution of vast wealth, which has been accumulating for many decades. Releases enormous sums of money for humanitarian purposes. Those two right there, right? You notice Trump has been talking about the tariff dividends. I don't know if you guys heard about that, but Trump's been talking about the tariff dividends, which is supposed to be at least $2,000 per American. And they say at least because it could be more. Also, there's still the Doge dividend that Elon Musk was talking about last year. That's kind of went quiet. But all that money is still going to come to the people. But what I believe is going to happen is it's going to come sometime right before the 2026 midterm election, because that will ensure that every candidate that Trump endorses for office is going to win their election, because America is going to love Trump when they get them $7,000 or $10,000 checks showing up in their accounts. That's how it's going to play out. Now, what made this all possible was the PPP loans. You guys have been hearing all these stories about the people getting busted for PPP loan fraud so many years later, right? Because the loans are being given out, 2020 and 2021, right? And there's people in 24 and 25 still going to jail over that stuff. Well, here's what the PPP loan stuff was and why all that money was being given away so freely. It was a major sting operation. I'm sorry, y'all. It was a sting operation to weed out the people from amongst the population who have the means and the capabilities of intercepting this money that's supposed to be distributed back to the American people, back to its rightful owners. So they gave out all this free money and let all the scammers take it and live the high life and buy their vacation homes and their yachts and live in their houses for a couple of years. And then boom, one day they get a letter from the Fed saying you got to pay this money back or your ass is going to jail. So it was a big sting operation to get rid of the scammers. So when this happens, the prosperity distribution and the enormous sums of money for humanitarian purposes starts to happen, we the people will receive what we're due. And the criminals and the thieves and the scammers will be long locked away, out of the way. Remember, Trump is a builder. Trump is a real estate developer. And as a builder, you got to know masonry, you got to know glasswork, you got to know electrics, you got to know plumbing. And what happened with our money system is like a giant plumbing system. The disbursement system where the government gives out stimulus money. It's a huge system of pipelines that funnels that money from the government agencies into the hands of the people. But with all the scammers running around during the PPP loan time, those scammers would essentially be leaks in the plumbing system, right? So if you want your plumbing system to function properly, and of course the money is the water, and you don't want that money or that water leaking out at certain points along its journey to its destination, and you want 100% of that water to get to where it's supposed to go, what do you do with that plumbing system? You have to pump water into it. You have to pressurize that system. And once that system is under pressure, now the leaks can be detected. Now you're going to see where that little bit of moisture is developing, or you can hear that little hiss of the spray from that tiny little crack in the pipe. And once you identify all the leaks, you shut off the water, you let the pipe system drain, and then you begin your repairs. That's what happened with the PPP loan money. That was the pressurization of the money disbursement system between the government and the people. The scammers were the leaks. Thus, they were discovered. Now they're going to jail and they're out of the way. And now that all the repairs have been made to the plumbing system, when it's time to turn on that water or disperse that money, 100% of it gets to its destination. You see, what Trump is up against is a massive system of fraud that has existed since the Egyptian pharaohs, to tell you the truth. And that massive system of fraud cannot be taken down overnight. As much as we would like to see it happen overnight, it's not going to happen overnight, because the perpetuators and the protectors and the defenders of that fraud are too deeply entrenched within not only our government, but our society. So both ends of the spectrum have to be addressed. And that's what we're seeing. This is why we're seeing government officials and local communities getting indictments. There's been thousands of indictments in the last 2 years, if you guys haven't been watching. And on the civilian side of things, people are going to jail, roundups, mass deportation, etc. It's a beautiful thing that's happening if you can really read the tea leaves. And I hope that, what I'm sharing with you guys tonight, if been a little confused or hazy about what's been happening and why, maybe perhaps, this presentation will have shed some light on that. But B Miles, what do you got on NESARA, bro? I'm going to give you the floor. I kind of been hogging the mic. I apologize.
Now you good, bro. You good. Now you good, man. Now you good, bro. Pretty much, man, about NESARA. So you wanted me to talk about how much money they owe us and stuff like that.
Whatever you want to get into, bro. Whatever you want to get into.
Oh, about
Hold on, you breaking up, bro. It sounds like you got a shortage in your mic or something.
Can you hear me now?
It sounds a little better, but it sounds like a lot of movement. I don't know what's happening, man. You was sounding good like the last time you chimed in. I don't know what's happening.
I don't know what's going on.
Do you have a mic plugged in? Are you using like an auxiliary mic?
I'm actually I'm on my microphone on the stream.
Huh.
Yeah. What about now?
Nah, it's still a lot of feedback and stuff. Do you have the YouTube show playing too at the same time? You just on straight off StreamYard, huh?
That's right.
I'm saying though, do you have a plugged in mic or like a Bluetooth mic that you're using, like an actual mic device, or are you using the phone mic?
I'm using the phone.
Oh, that's crazy. That's wild as hell. All right, do this. Jump out of the studio and then just jump back in. Maybe that'll clear it up. Because there's a whole lot of feedback and I don't know where it's coming from.
Okay, let's try it again.
All right. Sorry about that, yo. I didn't mean to put the brother on the spot like that, but we wanted to be right and exact. We have to be right and exact, because there's a lot of people out there that are hazy on this type of information and they don't want to believe it. So you got to be spot on, because when you explain these things to people, what they do is they wait for you to mispronounce one word or get one fact wrong, and then they use that to discredit everything that you've been saying. you know, and it's pretty sad when that happens. But the upside to that is it forces us to be thorough in our research and in our presentations and in what we say. So we always check and double check. Let me see. Speaking of checking and double checking, let me see if B Miles is back. Yeah, he's back.
Can you hear me now better?
It's way better. That's all it took. How about that? All right, go
Okay.
in, bro. Cook, bro.
Well, yeah, man. Like as far as my fault. As far as you were saying about like NESARA and stuff like that, they was actually talking about right here. They were saying that, because President Clinton's clone had no interest in signing NESARA into law on October the 10th, 2000. They said under orders from the U.S. military generals, the elite Navy SEALs and the Delta Force stormed the White House and then at gunpoint forced Bill Clinton to sign NESARA into law. This was back in 2000. So this
So,
was like, go ahead.
uh, now I was just gonna say. So even back then, there was military involvement, just like there is now.
You know it. Yep, they were saying during this time, the Secret Service and the White House security personnel were ordered to stand down and were disarmed and allowed to witness this event under a gag order.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And was it Navy SEALs or Delta Force?
Matter of fact, they were saying that it was elite Navy SEALs and the Delta Force.
Oh, so it was both. It was both units.
Yeah,
And
both units.
you know what's funny? When you have multiple special forces units operating together like that, that's called a joint task force. And guess what military outfits are operating the domestic operations with the mass deportations and the Venezuela operations. In America, you got JSOC, which is the Joint Special Operations Command. I did a whole stream on that. And then down in the Caribbean with Venezuela, that's all Southcom under Southern Command. So that means that there's been military involvement working against the deep state since before Trump. And that gives validity to the stories that I heard that some generals actually came to Trump in 2007 and asked him to run, but he didn't want to run because he didn't feel like he could beat Obama.
Mm,
And that's why he waited till 2015.
that makes sense when Obama was leaving.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because he was saying, like, I'm an old white guy. I can't beat the first black president. Like, there's no way.
That makes sense. He knew what it was.
Yeah, so they came back to him again in 2015 and said, "This is your chance now, Trump. We need you in there." And the reason why they needed Trump in there and they asked Trump to do it is because the president is the commander in chief of the military. So he controls all the intelligence agencies, all the military units, all military movements, and every single military action. And the reason why is because since 9/11, we've been in a state of declared war. That's why no military action has ever required Congress since 9/11. So under that pretext, Obama was running the military and using our military to arm and fund ISIS in the Middle East to destroy those countries. And now we have Trump that's basically turning the military against the deep state. In Mexico, there's huge protests right now and riots, just like we saw in Ukraine, in Libya, and Syria, where you got mobs of people attacking the Capitol building, trying to force the president out of power. Now, back in those Middle Eastern countries, that was deliberate destabilization because those countries wanted to switch to a gold-backed currency and join BRICS, because BRICS is setting up the quantum financial system, which we're soon to join once we get our gold-backed currency. But the CIA group that's specifically in charge of infiltrating the country and stirring up those mobs, they're called the Jackals. And the Jackals, they have no allegiance to anybody except the president. So if you got a wicked president with a wicked agenda, the Jackals are going to be out doing wicked shit. But if you got a righteous president, or at least with righteous intentions and a good agenda that wants to get the bad guys out of the country, so the people of those countries can live free, like in Mexico, how Claudia Sheinbaum is owned by the cartels, Trump is using the Jackals to stir up the mobs, create an insurgency to get her out of power.
Oh, like the movie The Jackal with Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, the Jackals are real. Now, Trump being involved with the military and the military being the ones turning against the deep state, that happened when they assassinated JFK. That's when the group of generals got together back when they were young officers in the military, and they made it their goal to rank up to become generals so they can have some pull and have some say and do what they could from where they were to slow the deep state's agenda, because they saw what they were planning to do and they didn't like it. They were against it. And Trump was 17. He was a senior in high school when JFK got assassinated, which means he was old enough to understand what was going on. And his father, Fred Trump, was actually, and Fred Trump isn't even his biological father. General George Patton is. They look just alike.
Yep, I see it. Yep.
But his father, Fred Trump, was closely tied in with a lot of military guys, because these guys were, young guys getting their careers off the ground, buying houses. And Fred Trump was a real estate investor and a construction contractor. So he had connections to all these people, including the Kennedys. So from the time Kennedy got assassinated, that's when our military turned against the deep state. And it makes sense that the military would be against the deep state, because they're forced to follow orders and they get in trouble if they don't, right? And because they've been following illegal orders, thousands of needless American deaths occurred on the hands of the deep state. And nobody has a greater axe to grind with the deep state than the military. Just look at how they treat our veterans. If given half a chance to put somebody in office that would abolish the entire deep state operation so future generations of military service members don't get sent to their deaths in the name of the banks, you think they wouldn't do it? Of course they would. I would. So this is bigger than Trump. This is actually a full-scale military operation against the deep state worldwide. Now, when it comes to Israel, that's a bit more confusing, because Israel has a little bit more pull here in the United States. But Trump has abandoned Israel. Iran just dropped bombs on Israel a few weeks ago, and they're planning on dropping more bombs. China has openly threatened to evaporate Israel, basically nuke Israel, if they touch any of the Chinese aid ships going to Gaza. And Trump's not helping, and because Israel used to have the Iron Dome missile defense system. So when these Muslim countries would launch missiles at them, the Iron Dome defense system would stop them. But the Iran strikes on Tel Aviv were a test run to see if Trump was for real and that Israel was out of.
Hello, citizen man.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Now I can. You was breaking up for a second.
Oh, shit. The Iron Dome missile system had to be replenished, in America were the ones replenishing it. But Trump cut off that supply. And the Iran missile strikes on Tel Aviv was proof that the Iron Dome system is down. So Israel is open and vulnerable. So you see Trump on TV, kissing up to Israel and talking nice and this and that, but he's completely turned his back on them. Because if you go listen to what Netanyahu says about Trump, it ain't too nice. And it's with good reason, because Trump left them hanging, and he abandoned them, basically. So with Israel, the reason why Trump is still kissing up to Israel publicly, while privately he's abandoned them, is because Israel has Mossad agents all over the country, and they are some of the most elite hit squads to ever exist. Most political assassinations that have occurred in this country has either been MS-13 gang members that carried it out, or Israeli Mossad agents. Israeli Mossad carried out 9/11. So the MS-13 gang members, they handle the light work. The Mossad, they handle the heavy, they do the heavy lifting. So essentially, along with the illegal alien sleeper cells holding the country hostage, you also have the Israeli Mossad agents holding the country hostage. And they have more lethal capabilities than the illegal aliens, who could maybe bomb a park or a building, or shoot up a music event or a mass gathering event. Whereas the Israeli Mossad, they have the ability to demolish skyscrapers with thousands of people inside, like on 9/11. So as they're holding the country hostage, all their support is coming from Israel. So what Trump is doing is he's starving Israel out. And Israel was getting their aid from the European Union once Trump turned his back on Netanyahu. And once the Europeans stopped supporting Netanyahu, he's now completely alone, completely isolated. He has no allies. And the rest of the world is basically waiting on the signal from Trump to collapse in on Israel and completely abolish it and reestablish the true Palestinian state. But none of that can be publicly discussed because this is all being done through covert means. I just happen to know about it because, one, I have great sources, and two, I do a lot of deep research and I'm great at connecting the dots when it comes to these events. Like, I see one thing happen, that's like seeing the ripple on the surface. But if you're a good fisherman, you could tell by the sound of that ripple, by the shape of that ripple, by the size of that ripple, what kind of fish that is under there. So as I'm looking at what's happening on the surface, my antennas are going up, and what I'm seeing beneath the surface is prompting me to look beneath the surface, and what I'm seeing corresponds with what's happening on the surface. You dig? So
I'm here, bro.
yeah. So there's a lot to it, but it all boils down to the biggest war humanity has ever seen since the beginnings of the royal families. And what Trump's goal is to free the nations of the world from the control of these royal families. Well, at least the nations that want to be free. Because some nations like Canada and the UK, they're fine, you know, being under the rule of foreigners and being enslaved by the fiat banking system. But here in America, we're not okay with that. Down in Mexico, they're not okay with that. Down in Venezuela, they're not okay with that. They want these dictators gone. They want these puppets gone, and they want sovereignty returned to their nations. They want to be able to cast a ballot on election day and know that even if their guy doesn't get elected, their votes were fairly counted, because the vote is the people's political power. You see, these people that we call government officials that we elect, or elected officials, that's the wrong term. That's a misnomer. They're actually elected representatives. Their job is to represent the will of the people. But obviously they don't. So they got to go. And the reason why they don't is because we, the people, have had our votes usurped. So our political power to choose who we want to have in office has been severely diminished, which clears the way for the puppets. So the big question is, well, how did Trump win in 2016 if the system's so rigged? Go look at the new voter turnout statistics. Under Obama, up until Trump's election in 2016, Obama held the record for the largest amount of new voters to turn out to vote for him. It was 9%. So of all the voters that voted, 9% of them were first-time voters, people who voted for the first time. Trump outperformed Obama with the first-time voters at a 15% first-time voter turnout rate, which means when they rigged the election for Hillary Clinton, because Obama held the record at 9% first-time voters, you know, the voters that kind of come out of left field, they only accounted for a 9% new voter turnout rate. So when they programmed the voting machines to flip the votes, it was only to counter that 9% turnout rate. So that extra added 6% that showed up to vote for Trump is what tipped the scales, outweighed the fraud, and got him into office. Again, we the people, because if we the people did not show up, we the people would not have been, you know, we wouldn't be here right now in the midst of this war, watching the very system that's oppressed us for all our lives, our parents, our grandparents, and the generations before them, watching that whole system get dismantled. This is the greatest time in history. And when it's all said and done, the world will be, it'll be closer to the Garden of Eden than it is now. Let's just say that. It ain't going to be perfect because there's still going to be assholes, but at least we'll have enough wealth, power, and influence to suppress those assholes and banish them back to the dark corners of society where they belong. Because right now the assholes got the spotlight, and they're the ones destroying, they're the ones effing it up for everybody. what do you think, B Miles? Anything any response for me?
Oh
Or
man, that's heavy, man. Oh man, that's heavy, man. I'm just taking all this information in, brother.
well, I really do appreciate you giving me the floor, man. Because and this is why I do solo streams by myself, and my streams go on for like 3.5 hours sometimes, and it's just me talking because it's a lot. We're talking about thousands of years of oppression being systematically dismantled before our eyes. And I tell you, every day I wake up and I get on here and I get to share more information with the people. Like I'm in awe myself. You know, I'm just as shocked as most of you, to be real with you. Now, the next thing on NESARA where shit's really gonna get dicey, and this is where a lot of people say, wait a minute, hold on, pump the brakes. I don't know if we could go that far with it. Yeah, well, we're going there. We're gonna go there. Enables the release of new technologies such as alternative energy devices. Now, alternative energy devices have existed for hundreds of years, but they've been suppressed. And this is how the suppression actually worked. This is how the elites were able to suppress it. If you go back to the early 20th century, early 1900s, late 1800s, perhaps, the rich, wealthy robber barons in the Northeast, mainly like New York and Massachusetts and so on, they would hold these expos, these science expos, where inventors from all over the world would come with their new inventions to showcase them. And many of them were like, I come from a poor family. I want to get rich, whatever, whatever. They weren't thinking about how this invention could help humanity. Most of them were thinking about how can this invention help me better my standard of living. So the robber barons were able to make offers for this technology and buy it from these inventors, but they wouldn't buy the technology to implement it and give it to the people. They would buy the technology so they can shelf it. It's kind of like when you have a really good rapper coming out and he's spitting positive lyrics, but the record labels don't want to push that message. They want to push the negativity. So a big record label would come to this rapper and offer him an insane amount of money to sign him, and then they would bench him. They would shelf him. That's how they control. They view these inventors as their opposition. So that's how they would control them. But now that these robber barons are losing power, all of that old technology that they owned the patents to and they once controlled is now under the control of the Trump administration. And thus, the Trump administration has carte blanche to begin releasing this technology. But the technology cannot be fully revealed to the public until the bad actors within the government who would use this, or even within the society, who would use this technology for evil, are removed from society, whether they're eliminated through deletion, which would be execution, or locked away in prison, or exiled from the country, or whatever the case may be. These bad actors have to be removed, kind of like how the scammers had to be, all locked up before the disbursement of the dividends would come. And this new technology has been already experimented with in other countries. Japan actually just put out a fully hydrogen powered and magnet powered motorcycle. The Trump administration back in 2019 were experimenting with hydrogen fuel cells for military Humvees. Also, you got electric generate. What's the word I'm looking for? Generators that can generate electricity without having to rely on a fuel source. Essentially, draw the energy directly from the earth and the atmosphere. The air is your positive charge. The ground is your negative charge, ground. And these devices are able to harness that energy with the use of copper and magnets and other materials to stimulate electrons and produce electrical charges. And this would put the energy companies completely out of business. So the energy companies have always sought to suppress this technology and extort we the people for the energy that they provide for us. Now, imagine if a water-powered engine like Stanley Meyer's invention. If you guys don't know who Stanley Meyer is, you can go look him up. He's all over Google, but they killed him. Imagine if we all had power generators in our house that ran on water and we didn't have to pay an electric bill. You know how much money the average American family would be able to save just by being able to generate their own power? Something so basic and so simple could revolutionize the entire economy that quickly. But they don't want us to have that type of technology. But now you're starting to see that technology being played around with on social media because it's being released to the people and the bright minds out there who can actually conceptualize these devices and recreate these devices similar to Tesla's technology. They are going to be the new generation of innovators that are going to innovate, but they're going to do it instead of doing it like the innovators of the past for personal gain. They're going to do it for the good of humanity. Who here is familiar with that kid, Julian Brown? He's like 20 or 21 years old, and he's currently experimenting with a machine that uses microwaves to basically break plastic back down to petroleum and carbon, which are the two natural materials that plastic is made out of. So he takes plastic trash, puts it through his microwave machine, and it creates gasoline out of plastic waste. And he's broadcasting this to the public. He's got several offers from several energy companies to buy his technology just so they can shelf it. He refuses to sell. That's going to be the new wave of innovators because the innovators of the past sold out and they got us into this mess. And the new wave of innovators are not going to sell out and they're going to get us out of this mess. That's the beautiful part of it. Now, there's another aspect to it that's going to make a lot of you guys, if you've been feeling me so far, you might not like me so much after this. But this goes into Tesla and Tesla's technology. Nikola Tesla was a flat earther. Nikola Tesla did not believe Earth was a globe. And because of his knowledge of the Earth being flat, he understood that Earth was one big battery. And with that understanding, he was able to create the technology. He was able to create, it wasn't Tesla's technology. It was actually technology that came from ancient Egypt. But Tesla was able to recreate the technology. No, Tesla wasn't the face, brother. It was Thomas Edison that was the face. You see, the indigenous inventors, a lot of those guys were forced out of giving up their technology. They were threatened, a lot of them. Some of them sold the technology. Some of them were threatened. Some of them were killed, like Stanley Meyer. But Tesla came back and he recreated it himself. He said he would have dreams of being in ancient Egypt and being shown this ancient technology, and then he would wake up and recreate it. But based on his knowledge of the flat earth is what allowed him to do that. So that leads me into the second part of the topic, which is the flat earth and understanding the flat earth, because in understanding the flat earth and understanding that earth is not a globe, the ability for us to create, invent, and conceptualize new energy, alternative energy devices now becomes infinite, because now we're working on a real canvas. We're not working on an imaginary one. You ever wondered how these scientists could create all this technology and generate all this energy and make all this money and be so prestigious, but they can't tell you how the pyramids were built or why they still align with Orion's belt after thousands of years? You ever wondered about that? Well, that's because they're trying to decipher the pyramids from the modern perspective of Earth being a globe and the heliocentric model. But when you go back to those ancient times, the heliocentric model did not exist. The ancient Egyptians were flat earthers. So when they built the pyramids with the flat earth in mind, on a flat plane rather than on a spinning, revolving ball. That's where it gets very interesting. Now, just for those of you who may not be familiar with it, because most of us were taught in school when we were taught earth science for the first time, the talking point was, a long time ago, people were primitive and believed the earth was flat. And now today we have modern technology and we know the earth is a globe. That's how they start out teaching us. That's what I was taught. But what they don't teach us is what our ancient ancestors actually believed. Like, what was the cosmology that they adhered to and they believed in. Now, what gives the flat earth legs is the Mercator's map, which is this is basically a zoomed in version of the North Pole. So when you look at this new standard map of the world, I believe this one was from 1890, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see if I can see it down there. I got to go back to the page. Mercator's map is a map of 4 islands in this region right here, right? And the Dogon tribe in Africa, mainstream media and mainstream science tells us that the Dogon tribe came from, they say they came from Sirius star, the Sirius star system, like they came from outer space, which basically is a play on, you know, the assumption that the earth is a globe and we live in the heliocentric model. But this information came from a French explorer, a French journalist that spent 15 years living with the Dogon tribe, and the Dogon never revealed to him what their origins were. That's why it took him living there for 15 years. And after 15 years, he had to come up with something. So he went back to Europe and said, yeah, they said they came from the stars, which essentially would validate Copernicus and Galileo's theories that we live in a heliocentric model and Earth is a ball. It was all started from bullshit. The Dogon tribe then met a guy. They were then visited by an African man. He's a YouTuber, and his channel is called Finding Uhuru. And Uhuru sat down with the Dogon elders, and the Dogon elders then began to explain to him that their ancestors came from Pygmy Island in the North Pole. And this Mercator's map, which is a zoomed in version of the North Pole, what do you see there? Pygmy. This is the island of the Pygmies right here. And other people, there was the land of the giants, and there were other peoples on these 4 islands. But something happened along the way that forced the people from the North Pole to essentially spread out throughout the world. And what happened at the North Pole was the Great Flood. Now, if you look at Mercator's map, there's one from, damn it, I hate these maps because when you pull them off Google, they don't come with all the data. But I believe there's one from 1490, which I think is this one. And then there was another one from 1505, which actually depicts half of the Pygmy Island underwater, right? Now, some people also say, some ancient cosmologists also say that this is where the Garden of Eden was located. And if you take a close look at these 4 islands at the North Pole, doesn't the Bible talk about 4 rivers that flow through the Garden of Eden? It sure does, doesn't it? Doesn't it also talk about gates being guarded by cherubims? It sure does, doesn't it? Now, how about this? If you look at these 4 islands, there's a huge mountain range that surrounds the entire island. Like the people living here were enclosed. And the forbidden fruit was not fruit from a tree, but it was fruit from an animal. Because during these times, this was closer to creation. And it goes back to the idea of the point of singularity. Creation started in the center and it spread all the way out, right? So these people, they had rules, and one of the rules was not to eat the animals. And if you know about reproduction and birth, your children are called the fruit of your loins, right? And for animals, they reproduce just like we do. A male and a female come together, become one flesh, and give birth to their fruit, right? Even the Bible says, be fruitful and multiply, right? And if the rules back in ancient times was not to eat the animals because there was an abundance of fruit trees, as described in the Bible in the Garden of Eden, it would only make sense because the animals too would eat the fruits, but they would roam the earth and they would propagate the seeds, hence more fruit trees would grow. But what happened is a wicked group of men decided that they were going to start eating the animals. And the Bible blames Eve, the woman, for it, but the Bible was written by men. Some of those same wicked men, in fact. But it was the men. that killed the animals and first hunted them. And it kind of became like a secret because they would share the meat, the barbecue, with, you know, their friends and people that they thought would keep the secret. And before you knew it, animals were disappearing because all the people were eating the animals and there was nobody there to propagate the fruit trees. Thus, the population of the fruit trees started to decline. And with this reduction in food, now remember, this is just an ancient theory, guys. So don't think I'm here giving you the gospel or anything. It's just an alternative theory to what we've been taught, right? So just open your minds for a second. And it actually makes sense. So with the decrease in the food supply in this North Pole region, the people then began to seek food elsewhere, search for greener pastures. Hence, they started spreading into the continents and moving south. You see, the North Pole in the center on the flat Earth, that's north. So everywhere on every point on this Earth, as you move towards the center, you're traveling north. Every point on this Earth, as you move away from the center, you're traveling south. Right? Now, how does east and west work? East and west would be clockwise and counterclockwise. So this would be your eastward motion, counterclockwise. Clockwise would be your westward motion. And if you go look up flight paths, what's very interesting is if you go look up flight paths from the United States to Asia, excuse me, to China, what you'll see is the flight paths go this way. They go from the west coast of the United States or the center of the United States up through over Russia and then down into Asia. Now, Donald Trump did something very interesting, and I believe Donald Trump has this knowledge too. When he made his trip to Vietnam, I believe it was in 2019, he went to Vietnam and then he made a pit stop in Alaska on his way back just for the hell of it to see the troops at the military base there in Alaska. And then when he returned to the United States, Air Force One landed in LA. Now, if you look at that flight path, there is Japan, Vietnam, and, you know, the whole Southeast Asia region down in there. You fly straight, you land in Alaska, straight line back down to LA. But if you look on a globe, the shortest distance would actually be across the Pacific, but the flights don't go that way. They always go this way. And I think that alone proves flat Earth, because you can't fake it when you're flying the plane, because they could try to fly over the ocean and fake the funk, but you know what happened? They'll run out of fuel and crash. But these are just some simple basic tenets of the flat Earth theory and why the flat Earth theory still has legs, and why someone that seems to be so well researched and as knowledgeable as perhaps I am would be so interested or so quick to lean to believing something so seemingly absurd. But the thing about it is, you got to remember, our education has been indoctrination. Education is teaching you both sides of the argument. Indoctrination is telling you one side of the argument is nonsense and only giving you the other side. Am I right or am I wrong? I got people in my own chat that get triggered when I talk about flat Earth, but the shit makes sense. Now, I want you guys to do a mental exercise for a few seconds. And I want you to think in your mind really hard of every proof that you can think of for the globe and why you believe you live on a globe. And tell me how many of those proofs did not come from the mainstream science establishment and or the space agency. See where I'm going with that? So, the ancient people that believed in this model of Earth, which is actually this new standard map of the world, is actually the map that ships and planes used to navigate before digital GPSs were created, by the way. But the ancient people that believed in flat Earth were going based off of their own understanding and their own observation of the world. And you can get on Google right now and type in ancient cosmology models, and you'll see collages of all these different ancient societies, and they all had flat Earth models, every single one of them, even people that never had contact with one another. And it's simple, because they were all looking at the same thing. They were all making the same observation and drawing the same conclusion, because they were seeing the truth. They call the horizon because it's horizontal. Now, we were taught the globe all our lives, and we weren't taught any other alternative theory. The closest thing to the earth being flat that we were taught was that our ancestors were dumb. So they literally got us to downplay the intelligence of our ancestors just to believe their fucking lies. And I want y'all to really search deep inside your soul and think about that, and think about how messed up that is. We have all been brainwashed, because the first time somebody told me the earth was flat, I thought they were nuts. And my research actually started with me trying to prove the globe. And everything I kept finding was coming back to Neil deGrasse Tyson, NASA, some college professor, mainstream science. Everything was coming from the establishment. And oddly enough, if you go look up the history of heliocentrism started with the Greeks and the Romans, the emperors, essentially having competitions between philosophers of who can come up with the most beautiful model of our cosmos. And Copernicus's model was chosen by who? The king, the emperor, the royal families. And if you know anything about the royal families, these are satanic Illuminati degenerates. So the globe model that we've been taught our whole lives was literally given to us by Satanists. Absolute Satanists. And the saddest part about it on the spiritual side is this. You ever wondered how these churches that are supposed to be houses of God have become so easily infiltrated? And there's all these scandals, and they got LGBT flags flying in the church, and children getting molested in the church, and the Catholic Church is completely sold out to Satanism and all that. You ever wondered how, if these are supposed to be the people that are supposed to bring the message of God to the world, and they're this evil, how did that even happen? I'll tell you how that happened. I'll tell you exactly how that happened. Because even the most well-meaning, good-hearted believers in God, if you say you're paying homage to the creator, but the creation that you conceptualize in your mind was one that was created by Satan's children, then the creator you're subconsciously paying homage to is Satan himself. That's like me looking at a Dodge SRT, right? And I'm giving all these praises to the creator of that Dodge SRT. Well, in fact, there is a creator of that Dodge SRT, and all those praises are going to him. If I say, man, this is some great engineering, the engineers that worked on that car, that's who I'm paying homage to. But if I'm looking at a Chevy, but I'm thinking that Chevy is a Dodge, and I'm paying homage to the engineers, in my mind, I'm thinking Dodge engineers, when in fact, that homage should be going to the Chevy engineers. This is part of the reason why the so-called houses of God, even in the mosques and everywhere else, have become so corrupt, because subconsciously they've given us this false creation created by Satan's children. And when we give praises to the creator with this satanic model in our minds, we're actually praising Satan. It's the same way the clothing brands put satanic symbolism in their logos. And you buy the clothes because they feel nice, they fit right, they look nice. But you're paying homage to Satan and you don't even know it. It's the same trick that they played on us. It's the same game. Now, I strongly suspect that Trump understands the flat earth theory, but because of the negative reactions that many flat earth, proponents have received, as the president of the country, it's kind of hard to come out and say earth is flat, no matter how true it is, because too many people still believe in that satanic globe model. So everything that he does has to be done in secret. So when it comes to Elon Musk and the space technology and going to Mars and all that, we're not going to no freaking Mars. It ain't never going to happen. Mars is a ball of energy floating in the sky. A portal in the firmament, some would say. I don't know. We don't know what it is. We don't know what's up there. All we know is what we were told was up there, and we believe them because that's all we were ever told. We were never given an idea or a concept of anything different. Excuse me. So this is where having an open mind comes in and is very important, because our minds, when it comes to our cosmology and the creation and the earth that we live in, our minds have been closed off completely. Some people say, well, you can prove earth is a globe because of math. Well, you can do anything on paper with math, but it doesn't necessarily reflect what's in reality. Math is theoretical. Theory and reality are two completely different things. Now, granted, sometimes the theories do fit reality, but other times they don't. You can add 100,000 plus 100,000 on paper and come up with 200,000. But is it realistic for you to go out in your yard and count 100,000 grains of sand and show me 100,000 grains of sand plus 100,000 grains of sand? It's not realistic. So theoretically you can do it, but in reality you can't. At least not with grains of sand. Perhaps with dollars, some of us. Not me, but you know what I mean. You know what I'm saying. But every proof of the globe comes from the same establishment that has lied to us about everything else. And that blows my mind with the people that still believe in the globe, because they're like, you know, well, NASA's got the information and da 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 da. But it's like, okay, so you know that the government lies about just about everything, right? But when it comes to that globe, they're 100% right, though. Like, it's silly. It sounds silly and it sounds mindless. And we really have to, because I really had to humble and check myself when I was on that globe shit and I was first introduced to flat earth. And you know what? I had to say, I'm a proponent of truth. I go where the truth takes me. And if the truth takes me down a road that's unpopular, guess what? Even in the Bible, it says, narrow is the road to paradise, wide is the road to perdition. So once I realized that there's so much profound truth with the flat earth and there's so many lies surrounding the globe, and a minority of people understand flat earth and the majority of people reject it, well, now I know what the truth is. That's the way I chose to look at it, and that's what humbled me. And I think for some of us, you know, for some of you guys out there, maybe you haven't gone through that process yet because you haven't been exposed to the information at such an in-depth level to where you can conceptualize it, understand it from the psychological to the physical to the spiritual. Like the spiritual side is you believe in the globe. If you worship the creator and you're thinking of a globe, you're worshiping Satan. That's basically the spiritual side in a nutshell. On the physical side, you're looking out at the ocean. You see a flat, horizontal horizon, no curvature. You go 40,000 feet in the plane, you see the same thing. People sent weather balloons up with cameras, 100,000 plus feet, still see the same thing. Flat, horizontal horizon. But somehow they make you believe there's curvature. Some people still argue today you can see curvature from a plane, when even NASA themselves have admitted that that's not high enough. So even that, so the lie has been so deeply embedded in our minds that even when the liars say, hey, there was a lie, the people who bought into it still buy into it. Crazy. Like, we're supposed to be the smart people, guys. We are supposed to be the open-minded ones. You can't say you're awake, but you believe you live on a spinning ball. It's not possible. I don't think it's possible. Because you're still asleep in one of the most important aspects. And you know what? Your ancestors are ashamed of you. Because you're believing what the people who annihilated and suppressed your ancestors taught you. You're believing what the conquerors gave you, and you're abandoning what your ancestors knew. And it's despicable. Absolutely despicable. And when I say ancestors, I don't mean black and white Europeans and Africans or indigenous. I don't mean none of that. What I mean is the people versus the establishment. The people, the free people of earth versus the satanic oppressive establishment. That's what I mean. So on the physical side, they get you to literally deny reality and deny what your eyes tell, what your senses tell you. On the psychological side of it, they have you so programmed that you have this vitriolic reaction to even entertaining the thought of flat earth. And that's like that barrier that prevents you from even exploring the idea, even if you don't believe it. Because when I started exploring it, I didn't believe it. And almost every other flat earther out there will tell you the same story. When I started my research, I was on a mission to debunk it. And when I found that I couldn't, I had to go, I had to accept it. I had to accept it. And that's how I got to where I'm at when it comes to this particular idea. And I see a lot of people in the chat not really feeling me. But for those of you who are open-minded enough and feel what I'm saying, I want you to look at those disparaging comments. I want you to look at every single one of those disparaging comments, and you will see, and you will sense the energy of how programmed these people are. They're not speaking from the heart. They're speaking from their programming, but they don't know it. None are more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe they are free. None are more hopelessly deceived than those who falsely believe they have the truth. And that's a fact. Ancient cosmology is what your ancestors believe. So if you have any respect for your ancestors to any degree, the least you can do is explore the cosmology that they believed in. You don't have to abandon what you believe now. You could just set that shit aside for the moment and pretend what your ancestors believed in was true and explore it and examine it. And your mind will be blown. Because remember, it was your ancestors, our ancestors, that created this technology. And they were not primitive. There's ancient structures all around the world that are thousands of years old, and modern science cannot figure out how it was built because those people had technology that was far more advanced than what we have now. But they were peaceful people, so they were conquered. Their technology was stolen and suppressed. And the world we live in now was created by the forces that conquered them. That's how those ancient structures are now. That's why those ancient structures are now ruins. You see, flat earth is much deeper than just the shape of the earth. It's much deeper than that. And the globe ain't nothing but a stink-ass satanic religion. You know why? Think about it. Islam is a religion. In Islam, you're taught to believe in Allah. And you're also taught people who don't believe in Allah, there's a label for them. They're called infidels, right? In Christianity, you're taught to believe in Jesus. And you're also taught people who don't believe in Jesus are sinners. There's a label for them. And when it comes to the globe earth, you're taught to believe in the science establishment, in the scientists, in the science, quote unquote. And people who question that science, there's a label for them, right? Science deniers, conspiracy theorists, tinfoil hats, blah, blah, and the list goes on. So it ain't nothing but another religion. That's all it is. And just like them radical Muslims that kill you if you denounce Allah, them damn globe earthers will jump down your throat if you denounce the globe and bring up flat earth. It's the same thing because it's religious programming. That's all it is. And the science establishment and the space agencies, they are the priesthood. So if you guys really want to experience a true spiritual awakening like your ancestors had and reach their level of consciousness, you have to, at the very least, be willing to study and explore the cosmology that they believed in, because cosmology and spirituality go hand in hand. Because the cosmos doesn't just pertain to what's surrounding us physically, whether we're a ball floating in space surrounded by other balls where we take dick-shaped rockets to go up there and find the balls. You hear how stupid that sounds? Or we're on a flat disc underneath a glass dome and there's nothing else outside and this is all we have. There's flat Earth cosmological. Sorry, I'm trying to talk and burp at the same time. There's flat. There's flat Earth cosmological models that also include spiritual realms, higher realms. In the ancient Hebrew cosmology, they actually show Sheol, hell, the underworld, and then the throne of God. Jason Jackson Wright says you can't leave the planet and become what? 360 azimuth. What do you man? He says you can't fall off the edge of the planet. Well, that whole falling off of the edge thing, here's how diabolical the globe earth Satanists are. When the flat earth argument started to resurface in modern times, they got together and created the Flat Earth Society, and they started putting out false flat earth models and then debunking them, essentially creating straw man arguments to turn people away from flat earth. Now, if flat earth was so silly, why would they have to infiltrate the movement and discredit it? Why not just let it discredit itself? They couldn't do that because it wouldn't discredit itself. It would prove itself. Now, the other point about falling off the edge of the earth, that's a moot point. It's a moot point because, as you see here on this map, Antarctica is not a little continent at the bottom of the globe, but rather it's an ice ring that surrounds our 7 continents. And along this ice ring, every nation of the world has military outposts, and it is closely guarded. And no one is allowed to travel to Antarctica unless under very controlled circumstances. So what's beyond this ice ring or ice wall, nobody knows. So to say, oh, if the earth was flat, you'd fall off the edge, again, it's a moot point because nobody has been that far and come back to tell about it. So again, making assumptions. That's not how an intellectual mind works. We don't run off of assumptions. We run off observations, facts, and we weigh the facts and the observations against our theories. And we either prove our theories or we disprove our theories. We don't just pull shit out of our ass and make it up and say it's so. You know, kind of like Copernicus and the rest of those assholes pull the heliocentric model out of their ass so they can get a chance to, you know, get their ditty on with the king. And this is what I mean when it comes to the globe earth. There's a lot of lies. There's a lot of assumptions. There's a lot of programming. There's a lot of shit that doesn't make sense. But for some reason, we're taught to believe it. Y'all remember when B Miles did that stream and he was showing the sun and the moon in the sky at the same time and they appeared to be the same size? What do you think that was? That was the Most High showing y'all that the earth is flat, because that can only be possible on a flat earth. It couldn't happen on the globe. Now, why wouldn't it happen on the globe, Citizen Man? Because if we were on a globe and based on the globe model, the moon reflects the sunlight, which is a whole nother aspect of the flat earth theory, that entire moon would have been lit up like a light bulb. But it wasn't. It was blue, it was faint, and only half of it was lit up. Mind you, the sun was shining directly on it, straight onto it. So it should have been, because if you take a golf ball and you shine a flashlight directly on it, the half of the golf ball that's going to light up is the half that's facing the light source. It won't be half light, half dark. But when B Miles showed the sun and the moon in the sky at the same time, it was exactly that. Half the moon was light, half the moon was dark. And did you know, I want you guys to do this research. The flat earth proponents have been making such waves and waking so many people up that did you know that a few years ago, NASA themselves actually published an article that claimed that the moon was actually within Earth's atmosphere? Yeah, they really did that. They really said that. Go look it up. They really said that. I kid you not. But they try to downplay it by still giving you the globe, but telling you that Earth's atmosphere expands 230,000 miles out to where the moon is. The moon ain't no 230,000 miles away, because you wouldn't be able to see craters on the moon through binoculars if it was 230,000 miles away. There's supposed to be a crater on the moon that they say is 200 miles wide, right? So you're looking through your binoculars and you're seeing this object that's 230,000 miles away, but somehow you can clearly see this very visible 200-mile wide crater. The math ain't mathing, y'all. You know why? Because I did the math and I scaled it down. I scaled down that 200-mile crater to a 40-foot school bus. Now, you take a 40-foot school bus and you put it 20 miles away from you, you won't be able to see it through binoculars. But somehow we could see the freaking 200-mile wide crater on the moon with binoculars. Give me a break. But you see, when you're programmed, anything that they give you that makes you believe it, you're going to believe it, because it's confirmation bias. It supports your belief. And if they get enough people to believe it, now you're a part of the mob. You're safe. You don't have to take the ridicule. You don't have to get chased down with the pitchforks and the torches and burned at the stake for being a witch now. Now you get to be safe in the crowd. But I'll tell you this. It takes courage and it takes a lot of inner strength to let go of what we've been programmed to believe our entire lives and actually go with what's right and what's true. I mean, how many of y'all took shit when y'all started to wake up politically and say, you know what? The media keeps telling us Trump is racist, Trump is racist, Trump is racist. But I ain't see him do nothing racist. I don't think he's a racist. How many of y'all lost friends, lost family members when 2020 was, between 2020 and 2024 was so horrendous that when Biden, was out of office and 2024 came around, y'all wanted to vote for Trump because Biden was fucking shit up and you didn't want Kamala in there continuing. And people got mad at you, but you still had the courage. You know why? Because you saw the truth and you knew what was true. You knew what was right and what was exact. And you knew you were being lied to and gaslit. It's the same thing with the globe. You have to exercise that same muscle. And again, some people ask, well, what's the importance of all this? What does it matter what shape the earth is? Well, the importance is, what is your spiritual life going to look like? What kind of spirituality are you going to pass down to your kids? Are you going to pass them down Satanism based on a false creation and a false God and a false creator? Or are you going to pass them down the truth? That's number one. Number two, are you going to continue to live in cognitive dissonance and ignore what your ancestors taught and believe the conquerors of your ancestors? Can you live with yourself in that mindset? If you can, then you know what? Kudos to you. Your mentality, your ability to do mental gymnastics should be studied. And last but not least, tying it all back to NESARA. Once we start to understand the flat earth, our technological advances will rival those of the ancient world. You think modern technology now is something? There's some ancient cultures that talked about teleportation, telekinesis, communicating through their minds without even physically communicating or being near each other, having a higher consciousness, being able to transcend the physical world and enter the spirit realm and sit down and consult with their ancestors and come back and bring messages and prophecies. Our ancestors operated at a much, much higher level of existence because they did not have an entire political establishment bogging them down and tying their hands behind their backs like we do.
Man, it's deep.
Yeah, I hope you ain't fall asleep on me, B Miles. I could go on for hours, man. I'm sorry. I'm just I was cooking, man. I be cooking and yo, you getting that feedback again, bro. I think every time you for a long time and you come back, you start getting that feedback.
Oh, so you hear me now?
Yeah, you sound better now. Nope, feedback's coming back. I don't know what it is. I don't know if you're moving around on the mic or what.
You hear me now? Is that better?
Yeah, that's much better.
Okay. Yo, citizen man. Yo, citizen man. Yeah, what's going on, family? Yes, this is B Miles. Yeah, there was some technical difficulties going on, so hang in tight. I'm gonna check something out. Just hold on.
My bad, Joe. My damn computer just died. I was cooking. The computer was like, I'm tired.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, my bad, y'all. But I recovered pretty quick. But yeah, I was gonna drop one more gem on y'all about the fakery of the globe Earth. One of the main components of the globe is gravity, and they say gravity is created by the molten metal in the core spinning and creating a magnetic field. Well, first things first, molten metal does not hold magnetism. That's number one. Number two, that so-called molten metal core that they say is down there, nobody's been down there to verify that it's actually there. The deepest hole ever dug on Earth is about 8 miles, and the core is about 2,000 miles down from any point on the surface of the globe. So you're being bamboozled with that one, too. Also, not to mention, the deeper you dig is the colder it gets. But if it's supposed to be hot stuff down there, the deeper you dig, the hotter it's supposed to get. Hardly makes any sense. So, just something to think about. So what do you think, B Miles?
Very interesting, bro. Deep.
Have have you ever been privy to any of this type of information? Have you ever heard any of this before?
Man, some of this stuff is like deep, man. It's like the way you breaking it down. Yeah, some of this stuff I'm like, whoa, I'm just, information.
Yeah, I think the more people start to look into that, and the more people start to talk about that and question that, is the less power they're gonna have over us, man. They can't control us. Think about it. How often they tell us asteroids are gonna fall out of Earth, fall from the sky and shit, but nothing ever happens. I've lived on this earth 38 years and I ain't never seen no damn meteor impact. And every meteorite that they claim somebody found and got paid for was turned out to be fake. Petrified wood, polished cement, all kinds of stupid shit. So if it's so real, why is there so much fakery around it? Why would they have to fake it so much? Makes no sense. You know, that's like me running around telling my girl, yeah, I got a long pipe, but then every time she with me, I'm pulling a cucumber out my pants. Like after a while, she's gonna be like, do you really have a long pipe, or are you just telling me this shit? Yo, B, you still there? We lost you.
I'm still here.
All right, all right. Yeah, I know you're probably tired, man. I'll put you to sleep with my lectures, bro.
Listen, bro.
Hey, hey, jump out and jump back in again, because it's doing that shit again. So I'm gonna shut up now, and I'm gonna wait for you to jump out, jump back in, so you can have a clear mic, and then you just give me your thoughts, man. Your feedback, whatever you think.
Okay.
Mic check, mic check. Can y'all hear me? Mic check, mic check. Can y'all hear me? Well, I can hear me. But yeah, man, that's what I'm saying. It's like it starts with the faking of the moon landing. Like, why would they fake the moon landing if what was up there, what they tell us is up there, is really up there? Why would they have to fake it? It literally made no sense. And then to make matters worse, they have more advanced technology now, and they somehow can't go back. I don't get it. Yeah, they hate the truth, man. They hate the truth because their entire establishment is built off lies. That's the whole point. Like, think about it. How does the Democrat Party get elected to power every election cycle? They lie to the people. They tell them, oh, vote for me and I'm going to tax the rich and give the money to you, and the poor people are going to do better under my policies. And what happened? What happens? They tax the store owners, so the prices in the store goes up. They tax the landlord, so the rent goes up. And everybody suffers anyway, because all they do is lie. Their whole entire establishment has been a lie from the beginning. From the beginning. All the way back to the eating of the animals. That's how the royal families came about. When the men started eating the animals and the fruit trees depleted, all most societies had to depend on was meat eating. But not everybody in society is able-bodied and capable of hunting. This is why all the secret societies like the Freemasons and so on have such a close relation to hunting, because the first hunters of the world became the first kings, the first rock stars. And here's why. You control the food, you control the people. That's where that theory comes from. You get the people addicted to the meat, you decrease the food supply, the plant-based food supply, make the people dependent on the meat. And because me and my guys are the best hunters, everybody now has to work for us to get this meat because we're the only ones that can provide it. And then the whole royal bloodline lineage thing came about, again, from hunting, because the best hunter, the greatest champion of all the hunters, his firstborn son became the heir to the throne, because in the minds of the people, they felt like because he's the firstborn of this man, he's got the most genetic traits from this man, so he's deserving of the throne, because just like his father provided us with meat, he'll be able to provide us with meat. That was the thought process, and that's how the royal families came to be, starting with the first pharaoh, Normer, in Egypt. That was 7,000 years ago, I believe. And that's why to this day, humanity is still enslaved to the royal families. We pay taxes to the establishment pays dues to the Vatican pays dues to the banks, and we pay interest to the banks. And you know what I'm saying? Like, and the cycle just goes on and on and on, but it's the same thing. Only difference is, instead of us trading labor for the meat, we're now trading money that we labor for the meat. And if you think about it, what's usually the most expensive singular item when you go food shopping? The meat. I mean, now in the modern generations, brother Jason, you are right. All of us were born into it. But the first original humans that became enslaved by the hunters were not born into it. That was the group of people at the transition time from free societies on Earth to the subjugated societies, the subjects under the royal families. But what's so special about us today is we are the repeat of our ancestors of that time, where they saw the free societies become enslaved. But we're going to live to see, and our children are going to live to see, the enslaved societies become free. And that's where everything comes full circle. And that's why when I hear B Miles talk about how significant of a time period in human history this is, it makes sense to me. It's like confirmation to me, because that's exactly where we're at. And the wildest part about it is an old orange blonde headed dude with the power of the U.S. military behind him is the one leading the charge. And I love it. Go ahead, B Miles. Glad to have you back, bro.
Oh yeah, you good, man. I was just like, yeah, man, just listening to it, man. Like, yeah, man, we are really in that time frame right now where all of that stuff is unfolding right in front of our own very eyes, man. And I gotta tell you, like next year, especially what we talking about right about now, it's only going, man. We haven't seen nothing yet. We haven't seen anything yet, especially with this information we've been talking about, man. Let me tell you, people ain't seen nothing yet.
I totally agree, bro. I totally agree. And when it all comes to light, it's going to shock the world. It ain't going to shock us because we saw it coming. But for the people that think this is it, or the people that, believe in the gloom and doom, like, oh, we're doomed and Trump sold us out to Israel, and, oh, those guys, they're going to be shocked, but it's going to be a pleasant surprise. And it's going to start with those crooked politicians getting kicked out of Congress. And on my next show, I was actually going to talk about that and the trials to come up, because I found out that I did some research and I discovered that members of Congress cannot be indicted or put into military tribunals while they're serving in Congress. So they either have to be forced to resign, or 2/3 of Congress has to vote to expel them. So a lot of those crooked Congress people that are resigning, I believe there's going to be indictments coming. And after the 2026 midterm election, when this wave of crooked, corrupt politicians get voted out and the new wave of American patriots that are actually going to represent the people get voted in, those individuals that got put out, the ones that remain, now we'll have the 2/3 to expel them. And once they're all out, Nuremberg Part 2.
Wow, that's going to get interesting.
Yep. And I think it's going to be right there in that ballroom that they tripping over. That's why they tripping over it, because they know what's coming.
Oh, so that's why they up there tearing down that White House for that that part of the building, right?
I believe so. I believe so. And that's why Trump is using privately donated funds to do it. Because if he uses government funds that are already, taxpayer money to do it, if there's enough taxpayers that object to the use of that space for those tribunals, then the tribunals probably won't happen, or they'll have to find a different venue. But because taxpayer dollars weren't used to fund it, it was donors directly donating to Trump, and Trump directly giving the order to have it built. Nobody could tell him he can't use that venue now. He's got full control of it. It was kind of like a bit of a dictator move, to tell you the truth, but not in a bad way. It was more like, y'all are fucking up, y'all are corrupt, so I'm gonna do it myself, kind of thing.
Now that's deep.
Yeah, brother. So for those of you that are watching that are not exactly familiar with my content, I don't know, B, you want to go ahead and close it out now? We've been 2 hours and 15 minutes in. I know you usually don't stream this long. I go 3-4 hours, man. I'm a madman, bro. I get a couple of Red Bulls in me. I'm jacked. I'm ready to go.
Oh man, you said how many remarks, man? Oh man, I definitely gotta say, like, this has been a lot of good information tonight, man. You got me over here, man. I'm about to be like a mad scientist, man, like doing some more research on this stuff, man, behind the scenes, man. I gotta tell you, it's been a wonderful live stream. I'm glad that you really came out tonight and you took your time, and my audience took my time and to listen to you and your audience and stuff like that. This has been another good live stream.
Yeah. And you know what? I definitely appreciate your audience. You guys are a very open-minded group of people. And I love that. I love talking with people like that. Even though there was a few, naysayers and people that disagree, that's par for the course when you're talking about controversial topics. So, I've been dealing with that for years. So I already know, what direction to point them in. Not to the door, just point them to some knowledge. Like think about your ancestors and what they thought about before you disparage me for talking about what your ancestors thought about. Maybe that'll change your perspective a little bit. Because that's what it's about. It's about getting closer to the truth. It's not about I'm right and you're wrong, or you're right and I'm wrong. It's about what's true and what's not. You know what I'm saying? The people that are responsible for our existence, what did they believe? What did they think? And I think they deserve a voice after, hundreds of years of being suppressed and being painted as these primitive cave people when they most certainly were not. Or primitive, bush dwellers, or whatever, however they characterize it. You know what I mean? But for you guys that are interested in more of the political content, come follow me over on Citizen Man TV or on Rumble or wherever. For those of you guys that are interested in the flat earth content, I got, a whole catalog of flat earth streams where I go through proofs and debunk lies from NASA and scientific journals that put out false information to make people believe the nonsense. You know what I'm saying? And we go through all of that. We debunk it. I got shows where I debated people and had discussions with people about it. And you actually see me win some souls for the true creator. You know what I'm saying? Teaching them about the true creation. I'm here to preach, man. I'm here to preach and I'm here to teach. You know? I know the Most High blessed me with a gift of not only being able to interpret and analyze, but also to convey. So I feel like it's my duty to try my best to convey. And the people that I want to reach aren't necessarily the people that agree with me, because they're already with me. I'm trying to reach those people that think this stuff is crazy. I'm trying to get them to see that this is reality, son. Because that's how you win. You reach the people that would be more likely to disagree with you. Not to get them to agree with you, but to get them to see your perspective. And if your perspective is based in truth, eventually they'll come around and they'll agree with you, because they're not agreeing with you. They're agreeing with the truth. You both just happen to be on the same page about it. You know what I mean? Like kind of like me and you. We don't necessarily have to agree on everything, but we both know what the truth is. and we're both set on finding the other truths that have been hidden from us and revealing those truths to our audiences in hopes that our audiences then carry that truth on and share it with their families and their loved ones and their kids. And if they decide to create content, share it with their audiences too. You know, that's what it's all. This is how the Great Awakening happens. It takes a few brave souls to step out there and, you know, take the first slings and arrows. But anyway, guys, yo, B Miles, I just want to say, man, my most humble gratitude to you for affording me this opportunity, brother. We're gonna do more. I think we're gonna do more. Maybe the next time you go live, you know, if you reference this show or whatever, touch base with your people and ask them what they think. And if they want to do, you know, if they want to see more, we can do more. I'm with it. You know, maybe on the next show, I'll try not to talk so much and I'll let you have it and I'll just chime in on your shit. You muted, bro. You muted. Hold up.
Oh, my bad. No, you good, brother. No, man, because I'm featuring you tonight. You know what I'm saying? So I wanted you to have the floor. You feel me?
Well, I appreciate that, man. That's love, bro. That's love.
You welcome.
You show me none but love, my man, and I really appreciate that because these days that shit is rare.
Yes, it is. Real rare.
And ain't nothing like the love from a brother, man. So
yes, sir.
You know, we understand that we're on the same team and we're fighting the same enemy. So whatever little things we might disagree on, like we set that shit aside and we brothers at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's what it is. So anyway, guys, I'm gonna dip out of here. B Miles, I don't know if you want to, you know, hang around and chat with your audience for a little bit, but I'm gonna shut mine down. To all my people in my chat, shout out to you guys. Much love to y'all. I see I got some donations that came in. I think I got 3 I'm seeing. Shout out to Deborah Ticey. Shout out to my man LTO. And shout out to Sister Iman. Sister Iman, where you been? I haven't seen you in a while. I've been missing you out here in these YouTube streets, man. I hope the YouTube streets have been kind to you. I'm glad to see you. Glad to see you still in the fold. That's what's up. But yeah, man, shout out to everybody for listening, giving me an ear. You guys are more than amazing. My most humble gratitude to you. Any comments, questions, or concerns? The next time I go live, I'm going live Friday night at 10:30 p.m. Eastern time. So when I go live, just come on over to the channel, come in the chat, holla at me. If you want to come on the show, I'll send you the link and, you know, we'll chop it up or whatever. And if you want to learn more and you want to get more knowledge, more information, go explore my channel, go watch those videos. You know, if you work a long night shift and you need something to listen to, trust me, I'm your guy. 2 of my shows will get you through an 8-hour shift, no problem. So if you're a trucker and you on the long haul, I keep you awake, man. I keep you laughing, all that good shit. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, once again, much love to all of you. B Miles, my brother, much love to you. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Citizen Man, out. Okay. So I got B Miles live on my show. So I'm trying to figure out how to end this without cutting off his channel. Oh shit, he done bounced. All right, cool. I'm shutting it down then. All right. Peace, everybody.